Act 1, Scene 3 marks a return to the witches. The language Shakespeare uses when the witches are speaking is always rude, vulgar, and shocking. Animals are referred to frequently, which can be seen as symbolising the witches' links to nature and lower-level animals. The second witch has been killing swine, the first mentions a rat without a tail, and this adds to the animal imagery already used by the witches in Act 1, Scene 1, with references to grey malkin, an old term for a grey cat, and paddock, toad. Shakespeare's use of animal imagery with the witches acts in the same way as their use of trochaic tetrameter. It separates them from humanity. In this scene, we're being shown the power of the witches, and it's not as great as we might have been led to believe in Act 1, Scene 1. For example, the audience finds out that one of the witches has been away killing swine, whilst the first witch has been offended by a woman who wouldn't give her chestnuts, and these events don't exactly inspire true fear in the audience. The witch who's been offended by the woman with the chestnuts has decided to take it out on the woman's husband, who's a sailor. She has control over the winds and uses them to disrupt the ship's journey. It's important to remember, however, that the witch does not have the power to take his life. Though his bark cannot be lost, yet it shall be tempest-tossed. Shakespeare's use of structure is key here. He deliberately shows the audience the witch's limitations in power, so that when Macbeth arrives and is captivated by them, we can see that his infatuation tells us more about him than it does about them. Shakespeare uses foreshadowing in this passage about the sailor. The first witch says, "I'll drain him dry as hay," which can be interpreted with a double meaning about the fate of Macbeth, who's ultimately drained morally, physically, and spiritually by the end of the play. Another important piece of foreshadowing is when the witch says that one of the ways she will torture the sailor is by preventing him from sleeping, saying, "Sleep shall neither night nor day hang upon his penthouse lid." Sleep is natural and important for people to stay physically and mentally strong. However, Macbeth, as a result of his unnatural deeds, will soon be unable to sleep. When Macbeth arrives, his words are eerily similar to those of the witches. His proclamation, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen," reminds us of the witches' words, "Fair is foul and foul is fair." It could be suggested that Shakespeare's linking Macbeth with the supernatural and evil element of the play from his very first appearance. The scene is important for developing the characters of Macbeth and Banquo, and especially the differences between them. One of Banquo's functions in the play is to operate as a foil to Macbeth. A foil is a character who contrasts another character, usually the protagonist, to highlight certain things about them. Banquo responds to the witches with disinterest, scepticism, and wariness. He labels himself as "me who neither beg nor fear your favours nor your hate," and asks them for a prophecy. Banquo is surprised by Macbeth's reaction to the witches, telling him he's going to be king. He asks Macbeth, "Why do you start and seem to fear things that do sound so fair?" Shakespeare intends for his audience to believe that this isn't the first time thoughts of becoming king have entered Macbeth's head. And we can read into this something of Macbeth's guilt. His ambition has clearly led him to think about this before. Otherwise, why would he react to such good news with fear rather than surprise? Also, the thoughts he has afterwards about murder are surely the thoughts of a person who's previously thought about it before, whose horrid image doth unfix my hair and make my seated heart knock at my ribs. It's interesting to note that Macbeth wants to know more from the witches and to learn from where they got their strange intelligence. Banquo, on the other hand, simply regards their prophecies as honest trifles. He points out that seemingly innocent statements, however, can lead people to do terrible things, and little does he know how right he will be. Finally, let's return to the question posed in the analysis of Act 1, Scene 1. Who, if anyone, persuades Macbeth to kill King Duncan? Shakespeare's use of structure is crucial here. To Macbeth, moments after the witches tell him he'll be Thane of Cawdor, Ross arrives and tells him it's so. As Dr. Emma Smith explains, the witches seem creepily omnipotent to Macbeth, the gap between prophecy and enactment frighteningly slender. But to us, that is actually a gap between command, the king's words in Act 1, Scene 2, and fulfilment. To Smith, the witches seem to interpose in a chain of human actions rather than direct actions themselves, and so Shakespeare's use of dramatic irony means that the audience is less impressed by the witches than Macbeth is. To us, we already knew about Macbeth's promotion before the witches mentioned it, but to Macbeth, their impact is much greater. In this scene, with the explanation of the witches' limitations along with the dramatic irony of their prophecy, at least the corridor element, the witches are presented as lacking power. Having appeared in 2 of the 3 scenes so far, the witches will take a much smaller role as the play progresses, which again suggests a lack of power on their part. Everything I go through in this video series can be found in the updated 3rd edition of Mr. Bruff's Guide to Macbeth, which is linked in the description, so do pick up a copy, and if you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.